I'm good. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I was just telling them that like I have the honor to know you more than like your average person on TikTok. So I'm just excited that people get to see how amazing and special you are in real time.
Oh,
So
thank
first of
you.
all, thank you for being here. Y'all make sure y'all show Ivy some love. Throw her some gifts. Throw her some coins. Somos hijas de la maíz. But thank you for being here, Mama. How you feeling? How you feeling?
Good. I'm ready to go. I think we have a good thing going, and I'm excited to see who you have lined up and all the great things that they're doing as well.
Hey, thank you, thank you. So would you like to let's start off with just introducing yourself, who you are. In our culture, it's a thing to introduce yourself. Let people know where you're from, what to your level of comfort, and then what you do, and then we can get going right there.
Yeah, so my name is Ivy. I live in El Paso, Texas. I am now a Mexica Manso. I am in my journey of reconnecting. Very excited for my reconnecting journey. I've learned a lot. Um, I will give myself some kudos because I usually don't, but I am an award-winning advocate for children in the state of Texas and southwestern New Mexico. I have been awarded all kinds of awards. I have my master's and my bachelor's degree sitting real pretty up here as quick reminders, right, of
Period.
all the hard work, right, that we've put into ourselves. I'm 26, so I'm relatively young. I got my master's degree when I was 24. I didn't stop. I kept going. And so I have been able to help pass a lot of legislation in New Mexico, K through 12 funding in schools to make sure that kiddos in New Mexico are getting adequate school books, desks, and K through 12 educators, are getting the extra funding that they need and resources. We also were able to pass a free lunch program all throughout New Mexico, as well, which was a huge win for New Mexicans. And so we were able to get that done. We suffered a huge loss with the Farm Bill, which funds SNAP benefits, and that's something that I had been advocating for and lobbying for the past 3 to 4 years. And so we just suffered a great loss for that, but we got to keep chugging along, and that means contacting legislators, making sure that our congressmen and women are continuing to advocate for us. I also serve as the fundraising secretary for the El Paso Young Democrats here in El Paso, and I am the precinct chair for my precinct here in El Paso. I had to run a campaign against somebody who had held his seat for over 10 years. And the people elected me, and I'm very happy that my people elected me, and they saw me as a great leader. And so my precinct encompasses what is northwest El Paso, which is closer to New Mexico. So I'm right along the border of New Mexico. So I'm Westway and Benton. Benton's its own village. They have their own governing body. And so my precinct is a little bit more unique because I not only work with El Paso County and their commissioner's court, but I also work with the Village of Vinton and their mayor and their representatives. And so I have two different bodies of legislation that I have to work with to bring together to be able to benefit two sides of a coin. Um, yeah, it's a lot. I know. I'm so sorry. Um, it is I do a lot.
Like hearing in real time like the breakdown of what you do. Um, Thank you for just being here. You got a lot on your plate, so I really am honored. I heard from a little birdie, Google now, that you're the youngest representative to have been appointed the seat that you're at. Is that true?
Yeah, so I am one of the youngest, if not the youngest, in the precinct chair group, and we actually have one of the people who go and they sit in our meetings. He's actually in my live right now. But I'm the youngest. The oldest, I think, oh, she's like she's a veteran and she's already like in her like 80s, but she's still kicking, and I hope one day to be just like her, to be in my 80s and still going. Um, so yeah, I'm the youngest. The person who had my seat before me, he was a lot older than I am, and so I'm excited. I think we need younger voices in the political arena, whether if it's creating content, passing legislation, getting people to vote. I think having a younger crowd is what we need to be a little bit more progressive and really push policies that are going to make a positive impact on our communities.
Okay. I love it. Shout out to educated indigenous women. You know, there's this little slogan I always see when I go places. It says, there's nothing more deadly than an educated indigenous woman. So that is truly what you are. Um, you break every stereotype, you know, that they have against us, that this power structure that we live against. You break those stereotypes. So thank you, and thank you for all the work that you do. So with that being said, we will get to the questions. And just an FYI to the people in the audience, I don't send the questions. I kind of did what was done to me, and I thought that was amazing because I wanted to be raw and real. So I never send the questions to anybody prior. Um, so the first question is, how does your intersectional identity as an Indigenous and Latina woman inform your approach to governance and to your day to day life and what you do?
It's a very humbling experience, to say the least, right? Because I think in the region in which I live in, 85% of individuals in the region in which I live in are Hispanic. Um, Out of the 100 percentile, roughly about 15% are are black, and the rest are white or Asian. And so I am very sheltered in the area in which I live in, and Gina, you can attest to this, right? We people from El Paso, we're very sheltered. We don't see what everybody else sees in the deep south, towards the east coast, towards the west coast. We're very by the border, and so the way I work and the way I talk to the people that I service is going to be very different than the way that people talk to other people in places like Alabama or New York or Washington State. Um, but for me, it is a very humbling experience because I can understand the life experiences that the people in my region are living in. And it can be a little bit difficult at times because I can see myself through them, and I want to give them everything, and I want to help them, and I want to be like, oh, you need this, let me get this for you. But we live in a system where it can be very hard to give people everything that they need. And so for me, reconnecting and finally figuring out like this is who I am, which is a journey that I've gone through for quite a period of time, makes me appreciate a little bit more of the things of parks, our water, um, our neighbors, our animals. Right now, we're facing a huge thing with AI data centers that's going to guzzle up water that people in my area we don't have. We don't have water to give. We live in the desert. Like we have
Especially not El
nothing.
Paso.
Yeah, we have nothing to give. Um, we live in areas where people have given up on taking care of the earth. Where I just did a community cleanup not that long ago, and it was so sad to see how many people in my area have just given up. Um, but it really it puts things in a perspective that I didn't know before when I didn't take the time to look outside of who I was just as a person. Because when you start reconnecting and you start going through the journey of finding your indigeneity, you start realizing that you're more than just one person. You're the community, you're your neighbor, you're the dog that's across the street that hasn't eaten in days. You're more than just yourself.
Wow. You spoke to something, and you spoke to like when you start that journey back to who you are, you start to become more aware of what's around you. And I think people don't understand that, right? When we live in a society that is so individualistic. So, yeah, I thank you for that. So, the next question would be, what specific challenges have you faced in bridging the gap between mainstream and political structures and the unique needs of your community?
I said this a little bit earlier when I talked about knowing what my community needs and knowing what the system can provide. Um, for a really, really, really long time, I have seen the pulling of funding in my community. In the early 2000s, we had a pool. We had a community center where people could go, and if they needed community needs, they could go. We used to have water services where if people needed to pay bills, if they had problems with their water, they could go to that office. Um, Legislators, our county judges, were more present in my area. And as time has gone on, and the 26 years of me living in this area, our community pool is gone. Now there's houses that are there that don't make sense to be there because they don't look like the other houses that were built by the people who have lived here and have grown here. Um, we no longer have a community resource center. It's gone. The water service is gone, and now people have to drive 45 minutes to downtown if they're having an issue or they need to wait on the phone, and that's even if they have access to a phone. Um, I have seen the closure of a really important school that helped a lot of kids that live in this area who can't necessarily take the bus, whose parents are working two jobs. And now this kid is going to have to figure out how the heck am I going to make it on time to the bus to go to a school that's in a neighborhood where there's an HOA, where there's a PTA, because the one here, there's not enough kids to go to that school because nobody's paid attention to the community and wanted to better the community so that people want to live down here. Um, and that was an absolutely devastating blow. And so I made it my goal and my mission when I graduated from New Mexico State University with my master's and I came back to Texas full time, that I was going to work to bring that stuff back, or at least some aspect of community back. And so I started reaching to my county commissioner, and I told him, "Hey, I need you down here. We need to figure something out." We were able to pass a a capital improvement bond that allowed us to make improvements to our park. I was the only individual that went to the meeting where we selected what the park was going to look like. Um, and so I got to make all the decisions. We had invited the community out. Nobody in the community went. And now the park is under construction, and we're getting a swing set. We're getting new grills. We're getting a pavilion where we can have, if we want to have shows or music, entertainment, something to bring the people back. Um, but again, there's a lack of funding to continue to do projects like that. It takes us days to months to weeks to get a pothole fixed because the county doesn't have enough money in their budget for infrastructure. Um, when we talk about the school, right? The the state of Texas has completely taken away funding from public education, like the one here. Where now, because of the lack of funding in public education, we no longer have a school here. And now these kids are going to have to drive far to get that to get that education. Um, and it's always in Black and Brown Indigenous communities where they do these things, where they pull resources and they basically, to sound blunt, but they choke us. They choke us with lack of funding. They choke us with lack of education, and then they ask why we have such high rates of poverty, why we have such high rates of um, of violence, because they have put us into this situation. And so
Mm.
one of the biggest things that I'm going to try to reel people into is starting a neighborhood association. Anybody can start a neighborhood association in whatever region they live in, whatever county they live in, whatever state they live in, and these programs have money specifically allocated to help communities to fill the needs that they have. My community has never had one; they didn't know about one until I found out about it, and I was like, okay, first community meeting I have. This is the first thing we're going to talk about because that means we would get funding for better streetlights. If we need a pothole fix, boom, that can come out of our budget. Get that pothole fixed. If that means we need to pay the county a little bit more to clean our streets, money goes straight over there. Because it's always us, and I'm so tired of it always being the Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities where we have to fight for funding all the time. So I hope that answers your question.
It did. It did. Your questions are, ooh, girl, that master's degree is coming through. um, so I have one more question. This is off script. What would you tell the young brown kids who are coming up to be 18 years old, who are going to have the opportunity to vote or to be politically active? What would you tell those kids? Because it's very common now. There's this thing. Well, it's not common. It's kind of been something that has been in our communities. Um, when you have those young Black, Brown, or Indigenous kids who are being told, "Oh, don't go vote," it's not going to do anything. Your vote doesn't count. What would you tell those young kids?
Yeah, and that's something that I trained a lot of college students to talk about. Um, so and I'll tie it into to the answer. So when I was at New Mexico State University, I was the president of Save the Children Action Network. They had a student engagement program, and I was in charge of that student engagement program at New Mexico State University for 2 years. Um, and so our main focus was to get individuals, especially students, high school, middle school, um, freshmen in college, to go out, register to vote, and get going. With our middle schoolers, we tried to get them engaged in civic duty of going out and talking and asking questions and getting involved, whether it be at marches, whether it be at going and doing community events. Our high schoolers, if they were 18, okay, let's get you registered to vote. What do you need? Um, and our college students was getting them to understand that their childhood is very parallel to the childhood that the children that are currently children right now, very parallel and very the same. And why is that? What has happened through time and through different eras of different congressmen and leadership that we're still living in parallels with other children. Why are our stories continuing to be similar? And so when I would tell individuals to get them motivated to vote and encourage them to vote, I would tell them, do you remember when you were little and you had to figure out if you were going to have rice with beans or you were going to have rice with sour cream? Do you remember that? And they were like, well, yeah. Well, guess what? There's a 5-year old right now thinking the exact same thing. Do you remember thinking, hey, like I'm at school, but I'm too nervous to ask my teacher to go to the bathroom because what if she yells at me and tells me no? And then you pee yourself. There are kids currently that are doing the exact same thing. Why? Because when they ask those questions at home, they get yelled at and told no. And there's also other right. We have factors where we have children who have accidents, who are going through all kinds of neglect, all kinds of situations at home where they're getting hurt. Again, same thing. Parallels, right? Continued parallels in time that we continue to share with 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 7-year olds, 8-year olds, and there's nothing done about it. And so I give them the elevator pitch and I tell them, do you remember of a time when you used this and this? And they're like, well, yeah. And it's, okay. There's a 5-year old living that exact same life. Why? Because we're not changing the system. We're not putting people in positions of power that have lived the same parallels that we have. What do I have in common I'm sorry, what do I have in common with John Cornyn? What do I have in common with Ted Cruz? What do I have in common with Ken Paxton? Nothing. I have nothing in common because they have not lived the same parallel lives that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that gets them, and they're like, you know what, you're right, and we'll have them sign our little. We usually would do like a little QR code. They would scan the QR code. It's like the one I sent on the Discord, Gina, for the take actions. We would have a QR code. They would sign up for the take actions, and then the following month we would see them, and they tell me, hey, my congresswoman or my congressman, they messaged me back. I had a really good conversation with them, and I tell them, all right, well, you ready to register to vote? And usually they're like, yep, I'm ready, and we'll get them registered, and off they go. But it's finding that emotional connection with them and telling them, things you went through as a kid still happening now. Like, there has to be a way that we can stop it, fix it, and make life better for the children that are going to be adults when we're old and we can barely get out of bed.
Yes. I love these raw, unfiltered answers. So I appreciate you. I had to ask that specific question because we're seeing that right now. Like we're seeing also too, like the Gen Zers, like with everything going on, they kind of like some of them will take on that like really lax attitude, and I'm just like, but you guys see what's going on right now. There has to be a change. They're this saying, and I say this quite often, is you might not do politics, but politics will do you. So just because you don't choose to, be politically literate or politically active doesn't mean that those people, like you said, Ivy, that have nothing in common with us, that doesn't mean they're not going to be in those spaces making decisions for us that aren't for our benefit. So I definitely agree. Thank you for that. So my next question, and then we'll take a break. And I'm not sure if there's any people in the comments who would like to ask Miss Ivy a question. But my next question is, what systemic barriers currently prevent Indigenous and Latina women from entering public service? And how would you work on dismantling that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things when we're talking about women and in these spaces, specifically Indigenous and Latina women, is misogyny. To be quite honest, to be quite frank, is misogyny, right? Because when you're running a campaign, it's all about finances. Who can get the bigger amounts of money? I mean, we see it here with Greg Abbott and Gina Hinojosa, the prime example where Greg Abbott, because he's a man, because he's white, he's being flooded with donations almost hourly, weekly. And Gina, a Latina Hispanic woman, has been fighting a grassroots campaign to get funding so that she can win. Um, and that should tell you a lot. The fact that even the system, right, the system that is based on equity and a fair campaign and a fair chance of winning is still swimming in misogyny, where the man continues to get the funding, but it's also regionally based. Here in El Paso, the county commissioner that I had been working with for the past 2 years got outseated by a woman. She's a Hispanic Latina woman. I have yet to have a conversation with her. She doesn't want to answer my emails. She doesn't want to answer my calls. She does not want to have a conversation with me. Which to me, it's like, okay, let me help you so that I can make sure when you're in this position of leadership, once you win that county commissioner seat, we can make sure that you get off on the right foot. She has to go up against Leo Arcos, who is a Republican. He's a man, but he's also a man of color, which makes it a little bit difficult because in the region in which we live in, the majority of individuals are Hispanic, which means you're going to run against somebody who is a person of color. And again, this is where the shelteredness comes in of the region in which I live in, because I don't see as much competitiveness between Black, Brown, Indigenous versus white Caucasian European people. Um, we see the battling it out amongst ourselves. And so I've seen the men slander the women who are running for these positions, even for city council, where they say, oh, well, they slept their way to the top, or they did this in exchange for this, or, they got funding for that through this. Why? Like, why can't a woman just have her position and work for her position without having to quote unquote sleep her way to the top? Why is that always the first thing? Why can't a woman just be smart and use her knowledge and her experience to be a leader? And it's automatically, nope, you used your body. You used a man, you manipulated a man, the poor man, you used him, and you used your body to manipulate him into letting you win. Like, what? Like, what is that concept? Like, I'm sorry that as a female I'm better than you. Like, I'm sorry as a woman, regardless if I'm trans, if I'm cisgender, it doesn't matter. That I make you feel inferior. That should tell you more about yourself as a man than me as a woman. Because if like I'm outbetting you here, and you getting so upset to the point to where you have to say that I slept my way to the top, or I'm anti-Hispanic men, or I'm whatever. Maybe you should do some self-reflecting and maybe realize that maybe you weren't the best candidate for the position, and this woman outseated you, and maybe that means you need to work 10 times as hard, or humble yourself and support her and make sure that she feels supported by you like she would any other person. And if that means she needs advice, then give it to her. And if she doesn't, then don't, and don't even think about giving it to her if she don't need it or doesn't want it.
Facts.
But yeah, it's the whole she slept her way to the top is what it just gets me every single time.
Man, that was a word right there. Thank you. And we see that often, right? When we're talking about women in politics and women in positions of power, right away, her sex will be used against her. And when I mean her sex, like her being a woman, like right away, they'll try to demonize her sex, or they'll try to, like you said, use that against her and weaponize it. And it's like you said, it's like, why can't we just be just as good, if not better? So I'm glad that you spoke on that. Thank you. We'll pull up anybody. I think I can have maybe 2 people come up, if I'm not mistaken, to come and ask you some questions. Let me see. I don't know how to pull up people when I'm co-hosting, y'all. So if y'all can help me, if anybody would like to come up, please hit the request box. I don't know how this works when I'm co-hosting. Let me see.
I don't know
Let me
either.
see. Yeah, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I don't know how to do this when I'm co-hosting. I don't know.
I know we've been able to figure it out before, but I don't.
But well, oh, cool. That is so cool. They keep updating it, and it messes with my update. So I see you. There we go. Let's do the man of the hour who inspired this.
Good evening.
Hello. How
Hello.
are you?
Good.
Well, thank you for coming up. Thank you for inspiring this. Just so that people can see, we do love our brothers. We're fighting for matriarchs, but our brothers are amazing. So, Chief, Mr. Chief Bigfoot, what would you like to ask our Ivy? It's just an honor to have her here and to have a little bit of her time.
One, I'm saying, clocking all of this, I'm proud of both of you for taking the time to create this space for the women today and in the future of women, and the powerhouse of women. Ivy, you are a powerhouse. From what you have spoken of so far, holy smokes. I sit in silence in your presence. I tell you what. Any man behind me should do the same. So my question for you is, So you got your. I'm huge in higher education and supporting it to a T. What inspired you to push the level on both sides of your family to get where you are today, as far as your higher education, such as your degrees?
It was deeply embedded. In the Mexican culture specifically, when your family is a family of migrants, education is highly embedded to you. Only 8% of Latinas and Hispanic women carry a master's degree, and I'm so proud to say I'm a part of that 8%. But it took a lot of work. Um, Life takes a lot of twists and turns, and there was times when I was like, screw this, like I don't want to do this anymore, like I'm tired, like I don't want to go to school. And this was just me in high school. Like I was like, I'm not going to do this. No, like this is just not for me. um and then 2016 happened. um the Trump campaign took off, and and this is, I think this is the quote that like really pushed me to get it together my junior and senior year of high school so I could go on to college, was when he said that when Mexico brings its people, it's not bringing their best. I don't even care about what he said about the other part. It was just that little sentence that he said that just, and I remember everything he said, the entire speech from beginning to end, verbatim, because that is what motivated me to get it together and go. Um, my family had always been pushing me, and I had reached kind of a breaking point where I was just like, I don't want to do this, like I'm done, like the pressure is too much, like this is it, like there's no way I'm gonna get into a college, like I'm done. And then boom, though that little sentence, that little phrase that he said was what kickstarted it for me. And it sucks to say that that is one of the reasons why I decided to get it together and get a higher education. But I was like, Mexico didn't bring its best. Okay, let me show you what that looks like. Because I'm right here. And so I had really good teachers. Um, but my grandparents and my aunt, who has been like a mom to me, even though there were times when I felt like I just was like done, like I'm not going to college, like I'm barely gonna graduate high school. They were like, nope. If that means I'm picking you up from your chones, I'm picking you up from your chones, and let's go. And they were my rock. And so when I applied to college, um, I had already kind of known that I wanted to get into social work. I have my MSW, and I knew that I was going to go into college, going into social work. Um, and there were super long nights when I was like, I'm tired, like I'm exhausted. I had my emotional support dog with me. Some nights where she just laid there and watched me do my homework. In the mornings, my grandfather would have my coffee or my hot chocolate ready to go in the mornings before I had to leave. Um, and then New Mexico State University is a land grant university, and so they work specifically with Indigenous youth, Indigenous students. I myself, since I'm not tribal affiliated, the Manso tribe is not federally recognized, and I didn't know then what I know now. Um, I got to meet so many Indigenous people from different tribes. I mean, and even then, right, you share spaces with people from the Black community that I had not shared spaces with before. I got to share spaces with people who were coming from Russia and Europe and all these other places that, again, I wasn't privy to because of the area that I live in. I don't have that much diversity. The most diversity I have is previous House Representative Beto O'Rourke, who was a white man, but he's low key kind of Mexican now. That is all the diversity I had. And so when Donald Trump said, when Mexico brings its people, it's not bringing his best, I said, watch me. Let me get my master's degree, and then you can shut up and stop talking about my people and what we are and who we are. And then I did, and then I got my master's degree, and now I'm a early child intervention therapist, and I love my job, and it's great.
Ivy, that was a beautiful, beautiful answer. Very passionate, very powerful, very inspiring. Continue doing what you're doing. I'm Gina. I'm not gonna. I don't have a second question, but I will close with a comment for Ivy. Being that I got to get my powwow started on my end of their reservation as well. So, Ivy, your words are very inspiring to me as a male, and as a father of three daughters, I would gladly point my daughters in your direction as they are on TikTok as well, as one to inspire them and point them in the right direction of not only being the next powerful voice of their people, their generation, but to outdo my voice and to outdo their parents, right? I always say that the next generation has to do more than what we have done for them. If anything, showing them the best is what we have done. And Ivy, you are an example of that. You are very, very powerful within your voice, your stature, even the way you speak. Those amazing degrees behind you say a lot. And I appreciate you taking the time to answer that. And if anything, don't give up. Remember, every breath you take and every little like centimeter of a step, and there's a lot of those in one step, you're climbing mountains and you're pushing them down for the rest. So continue doing what you're doing. Thank you. You too, Gina. You too.
No, and tonight's about our sissy Ivy. Thank you,
No,
Chief.
no. We gotta share the love amongst all of us.
Thank you, Chief. If you guys don't follow Big Bro, make sure y'all follow him. Like he said, he's got to get ready for his powwow on his side of the res. We're over here in the barrios. Same thing. But thank you, bro. So we will go to our next questionnaire. And that is to our Miss Daisy. For those who don't know, Daisy is part of our TIPM matriarch. She puts in her blood, sweat, and tears into our community. So I thought, what a more fitting, there's not another more fitting person than to be up here than you. So Miss Daisy, do you have a question for our sister Ivy?
I do. I am happy to see you guys. You guys are truly inspiring in so many ways. Just gotta say that. I don't think that's something I say enough, but you guys really are both inspiring in different ways, and I look up to you both. And I really hope you know that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
They tried to make us cry today, though.
I know. We had an emotional day as it is.
Okay, so my question is, what do you think has been the most difficult part for you on your road to reconnect?
Ooh, imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Ooh, big time imposter syndrome. It can be very easy to lose yourself in what is social media. Um, in a good way and in a bad way, right? When you um when you see content creators where they're like, oh, like you're not indigenous enough if you haven't done this, or if you don't speak this, or if you don't eat this, or you know, if you haven't done this, or you haven't participated in this. And I think that's a harder part, right? Of like being like, well, as an indigenous person, I know I'm indigenous. I think I've tried my best to put together and piece the lines, right, of and put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure it out and know in my heart and know that I am. But then growing up, I wasn't taught that way because my family went through so much colonization throughout a lifelong span of years, from the early 1600s all the way until now. And yeah, Sabrina, I started my journey off by doing the DNA test because I was like, I need to know at least where to start. And then that's when I started getting records from the Catholic Church, from other family members, and trying to put together the pieces of my puzzle. And so one of the biggest things, right, is when you tell somebody, oh, like I'm indigenous, they ask, oh, like, oh, so what tribe are you from? Like, are you federally like recognized? And I'm like, I don't have to be federally recognized to be indigenous. There's so much other tribes down south where I live that have no federal recognition because they're in Mexico. But we
Mm.
still live in the same continent. Like we're still in the same continent. We're still indigenous to this continent, just like Europeans are indigenous to the continent of Europe and Asians are indigenous to the continent of Asia. I am indigenous to the continent of the Americas, regardless if I'm federally recognized or not. I can't just take out what's in my body because I don't have a tribal ID. Um, but that also means that I'm never going to fully understand the scope of what it means to live on a reservation. I'm never going to understand the full scope of going to powwows. I'm not going to understand the full scope of what it feels like to grow up knowing how to cook your native indigenous food. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to learn and that I'm not going to come from a good place to see how I can help, either through ways of innovation of how can we get more funding to make sure that reservations have what they need. Um, Even here, right, with the Isla Pueblo Tigua tribe that's like 30 minutes from my house, um, I have a really good relationship with the mayor of Socorro, who is part of that tribe. And he is always talking about how the tribe is literally just basing off a lot of their income on the casino that's there. Um, and they're struggling to get funds. And so now it's okay, what are we going to do to make sure that we can find innovative ways to get that funding so that people in these places can continue to thrive? Um, Not that I'm an all-knowing savior, right, of saving all these indigenous reservations. No, that's not what it's about. It's about doing my part as an indigenous person and knowing that just like my community is my people, but also the indigenous people of Northern America, they're also my people. The indigenous people that are all the way up to Canada, Alaska, those are also my people. The same as the indigenous people from Peru all the way down to Argentina. Those are also my people because we're all indigenous to this continent. We have all gone through different forms of colonization through time, through different groups. We had French colonization, we had the Spanish, we had the Portuguese. It was a back to back to back to back to back where our people were barely trying to catch up. And boom, here comes another one. Boom, here comes another one. We couldn't catch a break. None of us could catch a break in this continent as a whole. And so when I start getting imposter syndrome, when I feel like, well, like maybe I'm not connected as much, maybe I'm not good enough because I didn't grow up on the res, I didn't grow up eating firebread, I didn't grow up going to powwows, I didn't grow up, you know, I didn't grow up doing any of that, but that doesn't mean that my ancestors didn't grow up doing that and they were forced to stop doing that. Because if they didn't, they would be subjugated to mass unaliving. They would be subjugated to having children with the colonizer, that they would be subjugated to being hurt because they didn't want to pray to somebody in Spanish. Um, and by me having imposter syndrome and thinking that I'm not good enough takes away from the plight of the people who came long before me. I'm sorry, I got a little passionate there,
No,
but it
you're
just like,
good. You're
and
good.
like, oh, because I'm not trying to be an all knowing savior, right? Because that's not what we need.
Right.
But I we need to start doing our part because we are indigenous, and people keep trying to stay away from indigeneity and say, oh, I'm not indigenous, I'm Mexican, I'm not indigenous, I'm Spanish. No, dude, tienes el nopal en la frente. You're hella indigenous. Stop putting yourself out in a different box. This is why we don't have enough representation in our spaces, because you're not willing to admit what you are and where you come from.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Um, so we were talking about this the other day. I think it was on the live. I have one more person that I want to quickly bring up, and then we can ask one more question. But I wanted to say there are, I think the last, it was 70 million Chicano people or Mexican Americans, right? Or Latinos, quote unquote Latinos, and about, I think it was like 9 million or 10 million federally recognized tribal members. Now imagine if we were to go back to our ancestral ways. Like imagine if we were to go and just connect back to our tribes or our communities, and even for the ones that their tribes were absorbed through colonization, even just going back to that more traditional way of life. Because like you said earlier, Ivy, when you started your journey, you saw life one way, but when you started that, you started to see it in a whole different way. It's like things just start to connect. You're more self-aware, you're more aware of what's around you, the earth you live on, the people you're around. It is a whole different way of life. So I'm just thinking, like, imagine if not even, okay, so there's 70 million. Imagine if even just 30 or 40 million of us were to go back to our people, how powerful and what a change it would be. And then on top of that, we unite with our black brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
We could take back this, like, some stuff could shake for real, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm glad that you touched on that. Daisy, thank you so much for coming up, beautiful. I love you and I appreciate you. I'm going to bring one more person up. I think this person is from a Southern Indigenous tribe, and I think she can kind of ask the questions that I want. I know that she's gonna ask, so hopefully she's available. I love you too, Daisy girl. Um, so I sent her the invitation. I don't know if she's still here or not. There she is. Um,
You put me on the spot. I wasn't expecting that.
it wasn't gonna. I know you weren't. And so, first of all, thank you for being up here, sis. Another one who's been a day one for TIPM, and just this community in general. So I'll let you have the floor. Can you? Do you have a question in mind for our Ivy?
Um,
It's okay. Okay.
Using your new found political field and your growth in it, how do you plan to use your voice? Sorry, how do you plan to use your voice to amplify the other voices of Mission Indian descendants to help us, sorry, to help us further get recognition and acknowledgement?
Yeah, that's a that's a heavy loaded, but it's a good question. Um, because my ancestors were also mission. The majority of the individuals that are in Texas were mission. The majority of individuals in New Mexico were mission. Um, and a lot of them, because of the displacement with having to move around, I mean, we had people during the Pueblo Revolt that left Santa Fe, that left parts of New Mexico, and came all the way down to Texas. We had individuals from Texas going over to New Mexico, and a lot of them are still fighting federal recognition. Um, and it's very disheartening, right? Because there's a divide that a lot of people don't know or understand, where some Apache were divided by the border, literally cut in half. So were the Yaqui. So were the Tarahumara. So were parts of the Tarahumari people that were completely cut in half because of a border. Um, and now you have two sides of a coin, where you might be recognized in Mexico, but you're not recognized in the U.S., or you're recognized in the U.S., but you're not recognized in Mexico. so where do we fit? Where do we belong, right? Because it not having that federal recognition, like the amounts of people who I descend from, they don't have federal recognition, and they were in missions. They were in the Socorro and Isleta missions along the southern border, and some of them were able to flee into New Mexico, and now a lot of them live in places like Las Cruces. They live in places in Albuquerque where they were able to flee, um, and they don't have recognition. And these are individuals, is it because they were part of New Spain, because they were part of what would be known as Mexico, that they don't get federal recognition? Um, what? And I don't want to cuss, but what is that shit? Like, what is it that these places can't? And I think advocating for that, and letting the government know, like, hey, even though these people are displaced, they're still here. If that means that we need to do a blood quantum, then we'll do a blood quantum. If that means we need to go and is it because we don't live on a reservation? Is it because our people don't live on a res? Is that why we're not federally recognized? Because a lot of the Manto people weren't put into a reservation. A lot of them would either went with the Mescalero Apache, or they went with the Tiwa people, and the other ones who didn't want to go with either or went on their own, and they didn't go to a reservation. And even the ones, right, like there's a lot of studying that I still have to do in terms of what it means for tribes to be federally recognized. And that's something that now that I was able to find that group of Manto indigenous people that reside in Las Cruces, and then they're still fighting for that recognition. That's something that I have also made it on my long list of things to do that I know I'm going to get done, because that list is shrinking little by little, of how I can make sure that those people get the federal recognition that they deserve, because they're also indigenous. They went through a lot of the same things that a lot of these federally recognized tribes did too. The only difference is that it was done by the Spanish and not by the Europeans. The same thing. There was just two different people that did the same ugly thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hopefully, I answered your question.
If you're interested, I would love to send you the case log from the Tapilam versus the state of Texas, and you can see specifically why the state of Texas has refused federal recognition and the excuses that they give. So maybe you can come up with ideas as to how to fight it better.
Yeah, and it's not the first. I know there's been several other tribes that have tried to get federal recognition, and they have been told no. Some have only gone in state, and then they're currently fighting for federal, and they're still in that really weird in between. But yeah, I just is it because is it a cop out, like, for them to just be like, oh no, not you, not you, because you weren't a part of us when that happened. But we were, though. We've always been here. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Facts.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming up, Luna. Appreciate you. I know I put you on the spot, sis, so thank you. And for those
absolutely. I always love to try to pick your brain, Ivy, as to what, since you're now, you've got a foot in the door. That's a foot that a lot of us mission descendants do not have. And that's a voice that can be used to scream at these halls to get not even necessarily federal recognition, but acknowledgement. Make eyes look our way, because you have that voice, and I see that in you, and I love to see what you grow, how you grow, and what you grow into be. And I can't wait to, push further generations to vote for you and push your career to the top. You're one of the leaders that my son you're one of the leaders my son looks up to, because he's wanting to go into the same thing. You're the perfect person for me to say, hey, look at you. Same thing with Nisi's kids. Look at them. These are future leaders. They're world changers. And you're going to do big things, Ivy.
All right, sis. Thank you for coming up, Luna. And for those who don't know, Luna will have her very own interview on MV Podcast. She is a part of the trio to do the kickoff for MV Podcast. Hers will be on Sunday. So y'all make sure y'all tap in Sunday for Luna. Powerful interview it's going to be. I can't wait. Ivy, I know that we are coming up on our first hour. So I'll make sure that I keep it short and sweet. I think it kind of goes into what Luna had already asked you. So I'll do the other one. It would be, what advice would you give to young emerging Indigenous and Latina leaders who are considering running for local and state office?
Yeah, we need them. We need them. I think we need them now more than ever. We have seen, right, that Congress, the majority of Congress is made up of white Caucasian men who are above the age of 50. What is this? Like, are we living in the times of like George Washington, like that we still have no like we got to get it together. And it can be hard, right? Because you have other outside factors that can impact how well you do, if you have the money for it, if you don't. But to be quite honest, I do it. If whoever is watching, if anybody is window watching, if the people that are watching in Gina's, I can't see because I'm on my own space, but do it. And start small. I started very small. I started my political career in 2016. I took up a very minimal presidential position for an organization in college, and then I joined my Democratic Party, and I said, "All right, I'm here. Let's get working. What are we doing to make this better?" I ran for precinct chair, I won, and now in June, I'm going to Corpus Christi as a delegate and as a part of the Indigenous Peoples Caucus of Texas in Corpus. So I'm excited about that. But do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And if there are factors impeding you in doing so, tell me what we need to do so that I can bulldoze them and we can get you where you need to be. Because sometimes that's all it takes, right? It takes somebody willing to put in the work to help somebody else out for that person to succeed.
They want you to repeat one more time. What are you gonna go as a delegate as? Who?
Oh, the indigenous people, the Indigenous Peoples Caucus.
Period.
Yeah, the Indigenous Peoples Caucus. And the majority of individuals in the Indigenous Peoples Caucus are Indigenous. All of them are Indigenous. The majority of them are Southern relatives, but we do have some that are from federally recognized tribes here in the U.S. And so start small. Join your local party. Go into one of those caucuses. Learn what you can do to help push legislation and lobby so that people who go into positions of power like James Talarico, like Gina Hinojosa, if they win, they keep our voices in mind when they go and they cast a vote at the Capitol. Or just do it yourself. Let's go. If that means you need somebody to be your campaign manager, vámonos. Like, we'll do it together. But do it. Start off small and slowly work your way up. And if you don't want to start small, we don't need to start small. Go big or go home. And we'll get you that seat. Whether if it's county commissioners, whether if it's a city council, whether if it's a House representative for your state, or if it's a Congress seat. We'll get you there. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to shoot for the stars. You might land on your rear end, and that's okay. We all do. We will all fall. but we have to remember that we have to get back up and we have to keep going.
Absolutely. Well, my beautiful sister, it has been truly an honor. I can listen to you the rest of the night. You inspire so many of us in our community. I want to thank you once again for being here, for taking the time out to be here. You could have done a million other things, but you chose to be here. And I'm super honored that you're the first person to kick off our podcast under TIPM. Like, I couldn't have picked a better person, honestly. I keep saying that, but it's truly, truly an honor. For those who don't know, Ivy is our liaison for TIPM. So as she goes to these amazing spaces and as she's rubbing elbows with all these amazing people, it's an honor to have her take TIPM with everybody. She has complete accessibility to bring people into the TIPM community on Discord. It's truly an honor, Ivy, honestly, Mama, to have you in my circle and to have you under the TIPM matriarch. So thank you for everything that you do.
Mom, and I talk about it. I do. I talk about it a lot.
I know you do. I've heard you, like, I've been, like when I window shop, I hear you, and like you don't understand how much that makes my heart like just flutter with happiness. Like I kind of like giggle inside, like like that's awesome. Like I get somebody, I'm truly blessed to have you. So thank you for being here. I'm going to end the live now. Thank you. I love you. You can end it on your end if you would like. And for those who were here earlier, make sure you guys go check out Chief Bigfoot. Ivy, once again, mamas, truly, truly honored. Thank you for giving us your time. And we truly love you. The people in the comments, I know you can't see, but they love you. They're saying that we love you, Ivy. You keep inspiring us, Ivy. You're doing great things. So thank you for everything you're doing. In case nobody told you today, you're such a chingona. And we do truly look up to you. And it's an honor to just know you and be in your presence. So thank you for being here. And thank you for being the first interview for MV Podcast. Truly appreciate you, sis.
Oh, no, I'm honored and thank you so much. And yeah, we need to head over there because we got a man, we got to support. We got a man, we got to support.
I love you, sis.
That's gonna be a good one. So, but thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing who else we got on, and I'm very excited for Lil Lunas, and that one's gonna be a really good one too. So is the one we have coming up.
Brave Woman is tomorrow.
Brave
so
Woman,
for those who are in here, tap in tomorrow because we will have the amazing Brave Woman 85 is her username here on TikTok. She has committed her entire work to MMIW. She lives there on the Navajo reservation. So we will be talking to her tomorrow as well. So just these amazing chingona women. Thank you guys. I will see you guys later.